All right, folks, the Apple clock on the wall says it is 8:30, so we're going to start right here on time. First off, I want to thank you all for joining us for our webinar today. This is a very closed group of folks. We have quite a few folks on the line, so again, thanks for attending. A couple different things, a couple of housekeeping things. We tend to keep a pretty fast webinar. We find in general people appreciate and we want to respect your time. People tend to appreciate a very fast, rapid webinar, so we tend to go through these pretty quickly. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit them. We'll try to get to them during the presentation or at the end of the presentation. If there are too many to get to by the time allotted, we will make sure we guarantee we'll get back to everybody whatever questions you might have. So again, thanks for joining us today on this webinar. So today's agenda, we're going to be talking about the fact that Nlyte has acquired FieldView Solutions, and then we're going to turn it over to Bob Parker, who is a strategic account executive over at FieldView, and he's going to talk about what specifically FieldView does and the value that FieldView provides. And we're going to go through use cases and some case studies, and again, we're going to save some time for Q&A. So again, this is sort of the agenda. We're going to keep that quick pace. So first, we're pretty excited over at Nlyte Software by the fact that we've acquired FieldView Solutions. We've been partnering with FieldView in the market for years, and they really are the leading real-time data center monitoring and alarming solution. And so it's great to have them on board. They're now part of the team, and we're beginning to integrate the solutions already, so it's just super to have them on board. As our customers, you on the line can now actually license FieldView Solutions from Nlyte, and we're going to have an offering specifically for our existing customers. We'll talk about that at the end. We're having a special promotion for those of you that are interested in adopting FieldView. And really the great thing about FieldView is right out of the gate, it provides super value, and Bob's going to be talking about that pretty extensively. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in. We can try and keep this more interactive. But there's huge value in the solution today. But as we integrate the two solutions, Nlyte and FieldView together, we're going to grow that value, and we're really going to create a seamless product that is just super for maintaining all the different elements within the data center and communicating to all the systems that are dependent on the data center. So again, huge value today, but we already have great plans and whole new technology capabilities that we're going to provide in the future. So without further ado, I'm actually going to now turn it over to Bob Parker. So Bob, why don't you go ahead and take away.
Great, thanks Mark, and hello everyone. Speaking for my FieldView colleagues, now Nlyte colleagues, we are excited to become a part of the Nlyte family. And what I'd like to do is spend the next few minutes, for those of you who are not familiar with FieldView, basically introduce you at a high level to the benefits and the values of the application. And as Mark mentioned, I will not going to read every single bullet, but I'm going to try to hit the highlights to give you a good familiarity with the application and what we can provide. So this first slide, what FieldView provides, that first bullet aggregates disparate facilities and IT systems at extreme scale. So let's unpack that a little bit with these next few bullets. First of all, it's a single instance for worldwide deployment. And what that means is you only need one instance of the application to reach out to multiple locations and multiple data centers. So one license, kind of a hub and spoke mentality to reach out and ride a corporate network out to the many facilities that you may have. So again, one license is needed. Number two, sub-minute real-time polling, and you're going to hear that as a theme throughout my short presentation about real-time data, and that's probably one of the biggest benefits of FieldView is that you're getting data real-time. It's not 15 minutes old, it's not yesterday's information or even last month. We're talking sub-minute real-time polling, and even if you don't see that information on the screen, which may be a minute resolutions because of the browser, rest assured that we're grabbing that data very quickly so that we can trend the data where you will see events that may have taken place between a minute's time when you had the screen refreshed. And then third bullet, from macro to granular transparency. What that means is you're able to look at global metrics of all of your data centers throughout the world, and then you come in on one specific branch circuit or single circuit going to a cabinet basically with 1 or 2 clicks. So again, you can really span the globe with the application. Unmatched monitoring, our bread and butter has been and always will be branch circuit monitoring. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but branch circuit monitoring is what FieldView was designed for. Goldman Sachs was one of our original customers where their BMS couldn't handle the load of doing branch circuit monitoring. So that's actually how FieldView was born, specifically to do branch circuit monitoring. We also do alert monitoring and analysis. In fact, we have our own console, our own separate alerting console to do alarm analysis, to dissect the length of alarms, the frequency of alarms, and what type of alarms we're getting. And then thirdly, environmentals. This is probably one of the biggest segments that we've seen over the last few years from a FieldView standpoint, is customers focusing in on the temperature of their data center, looking for hot spots, cold spots, and really deploying FieldView and deploying very basic wireless temperature sensors that can quickly, in a day's time, have wireless temperature sensors deployed and be able to get that data quickly into the application. And again, going on that theme of supplying real-time information, here are a few things that we can talk about. FieldView is all about the data, right? And you'll hear me talk about that as well. Collecting it quickly and training it for future use. FieldView has its own GUI built in, and you'll see some screenshots here in a couple minutes of the application, but we can also, more importantly, pass this data on to Nlyte, and we've done that, as Mark has mentioned, with a few customers already, some joint customers we've had as we've been partnering, where customers are using FieldView to collect the data and then pass that real-time information on over to Nlyte, where it can be seen there as well. Next bullet, produce meaningful and actionable reports. FieldView has over 30 standard reports built into the application that come with the application out of the box. And we also have another module for additional data warehousing, where customers can run their own user-generated queries to get information basically how they want it. So again, we have a number of ways. And then finally, third, standard metrics with business intelligence, as well as user-defined dashboards. So there's standard dashboards that you'll see a few slides here in a second, but then we also have user-defined dashboards that can be created by user or by group. Next, optimize energy, space, and cooling. Again, this is the heart of the application because we're now monitoring the big three, and the big three are power, cooling, and space. Giving you those totals by zone, by room, floor, facility, or enterprise. So again, FieldView allows you to go through all those different levels of your organization to be able to see and quantify your power, your environmental usage at all those different levels. Vendor and hardware agnostic. FieldView is built and monitors on standard protocols, SNMP, Modbus, BACnet, and a few others. And why that's important is because it makes absolutely no difference the type of label that you have on the outside of your device that we're monitoring in terms of the brand, the make, the model, because we focus on monitoring protocols. So it doesn't matter, again, I have this type of device, that type of device, and that's from this manufacturer. Because we're monitoring via the protocols mentioned there, it doesn't matter what the brand name is. And then secondly, we're a web-based architecture. What that means is there's no appliances, no client-server relationship, no hardware agenda that we have. Again, we're a total software shop. And again, we integrate with any BMS or EPMS application that may already exist in your data center. So we can pull all that data into the application. So that's what we provide from a high level. So let's talk about what the immediate value is to you with deploying FieldView. And again, going back to that theme, because enabling smart real-time decision-making, because the data is real-time, not week or last month data, you can actually make good decisions on information that you've gathered. So using that for power utilization, environmental data, again, it's all real-time information. Reducing costs is a big one. Finding stranded power and reducing energy spend on cooling. We're going to cover some of these from a case study that we have, and we'll show those slides in just a couple seconds. But again, finding stranded power, power that I already have in my facility, but has not been identified about until you get FieldView going and you see where this power is and it's not being utilized, and that can save a lot of dollars in the long run. Bring facilities, insight to IT, respond faster, correlate and track and monitor. I'm going to group all these bullets together and basically say the gap here is really bridged between facilities and IT, is these two departments, because both have access to the same data, right? So now the information that I'm looking at in FieldView from a facility standpoint, my IT colleagues can see the same information and vice versa. So we can go back and forth and they can share the same data. And with bringing in Nlyte, obviously, the IT department even has a better way to see the data as well. So again, it's bridging the gap between facilities and IT, which sometimes are the same departments or report to the same departments. In many other cases, they're not, right? They have a separate reporting chain, but allowing each other to have the same information makes for better decision making. Resolving problems, impact analysis, technical problems, trending for both power. Again, it's all done through alarm analysis. Alarm analysis is a powerful tool to track failure patterns. We see that all the time with going back and looking at how alarms have popped up, how long they've been generated, and trying to identify where they've come from. It goes a long way in looking at technical problems. Resolving problems impacting, again, showing power distribution. This is a nice feature in the application because within FieldView, you can look and see what devices are powered from what facility power outputs. So by hovering over a cabinet, you can see up the power chain and see what PDU it's coming from, what panel it's coming from, and vice versa. I can hover over a panel and then see what panel the racks that it's supplying power to. And that really is important for maintenance, for troubleshooting, and making those things available so that you can do some impact analysis on if I'm taking down a PDU, what impact does that have on the downstream users. And then finally, alarms, delivering the right alarm to the right individual team. Specific distribution lists for dissemination of alarms. You can have distribution lists that alarms are sent across by facility, by group, by job function. And these alarms are created on threshold breaches or even when certain conditions are met. So you can create user-generated alarms that are based on thresholds, again, based on the information that we're pulling from our polling. So what are some of the common use cases? And these four panels do a great job of explaining that. We'll start in the upper left. Monitoring, right? That's really the name of the game here with FieldView. Mentioned earlier, BCM is FieldView's bread and butter. Without even question, it's the fastest BCM monitoring in the industry. It's easy to set up by creating panels and then assigning circuits to the cabinets. One of the screens circling through here is actually a screenshot of a panel where you have an RPP or a panel on a PDU, and you go in and set up the panels, and then you go ahead and add the circuits to that directly to the cabinets. And once the network connection is made, polling and trending immediately begin from that point on. So you don't have to remember to go back and turn on trending. From the moment it is captured, we start trending all of that data. Alerts cover the span of all the devices to include power and environmental monitoring, and as I mentioned earlier, user-defined alerting that comes into it. Planning, the next area there. Metrics dashboards provide the real-time data. Again, as the screenshots are cycling through, you'll see some dashboards that give you high-level metrics. And dashboards, here comes one now, that provides information on power, cooling, and space, PUE, DCIE, again, at different levels throughout the organization. And then also PowerView addresses operational resiliency. And again, that is also one of the slides that are circling through here. And PowerView is a failure simulation tool that's built into the application where you can do calculations and what if simulation. You know, here it comes now on this slide, where will A be captured by B if A should fail. And then moving on to management, dashboards are used for high-level monitoring of facilities, rooms showing critical items such as PUE and DCIE, carbon footprint, power, cooling, and space charts. Again, are all presented for the users every day who are using it, and also for management. It's easy to go into the application and see how much power is being used by a facility in North Carolina or one in California or overseas. Just by hovering your mouse over those certain areas, you get those pop-ups that give you real-time power quantified, where I don't have to worry about going and finding it in some report somewhere. And speaking of reports, the last pane there, through standard reporting and dashboards, problems can be detected before they escalate, so before they become unmanageable. Again, all this is information at your fingertips, and that's what FieldView is designed to do. So we've talked about FieldView providing what it provides, what the immediate value is, and some use cases from the previous slide. Let's dig into the value it brings long term. The first panel there, reduced downtime, not only alarming when thresholds are breached, but proactive warning alarms alert to problems and conditions before they become a reality. Example of that would be our teaming, which is proactive warning that I mentioned just a slide ago, making sure that the B side, whether that be a circuit or whether that be another PDU or generator, will capture the A side should there be a failure. And that teaming concept is built within the application, and it's proactive, making sure that B is backing up A all the time. Improved capacity utilization. Again, power, cooling, and space data is real time, bypassing that need to get the data or to have someone go get the data, right? So it's there, available for you, ready to go. And most importantly, it shows used versus available capacity. And again, we're going to cover some of that in the case study coming up on the next slide. Reduced energy spending. Again, real-time data allows customers to feel comfortable with running their data center and basically running it without that safety buffer of, let's say, 80% or on power, or there's a certain ASHRAE standard for temperature that they're trying to stay within. I'm sure a lot of you have gone into data centers where you need a coat and you have to, basically you see your breath as you walk in. And that was the safety net, basically, of being able to keep it cold so that I know that everything's running. But with an application like FieldView, you can feel comfortable of running your data centers even higher than 80% because you are monitoring at the very lowest level in the data center to be able to make sure that, yeah, I got this, and making sure that it's not going to go beyond a certain level. And I can also look at raising the temperature, so I don't need the coat going into the data center room anymore. I can actually manage the temperature and bring it up where I'm not spending so much on cooling the data center itself. And then improved collaboration. Think of FieldView as the umbrella to bring all existing systems into one single pane of glass and pulling in data from my BMS, from my EPMS and SCADA systems, and basically having that one license we talked about earlier, or that instance, where that one instance can span the globe and pull all that information together and have that collaboration tool where I can see everything from existing systems and then also the other devices that I happen to be monitoring in the FieldView application. Next slide. So I've been teasing these real-world case studies coming up, and these were, they come directly from a third-party study that FieldView commissioned a few years ago with EMA. And what we asked EMA to do was to go to our customers and ask them what benefits, primarily dollar-wise, because everyone wants ROI. What's the ROI on me spending, investing into an application like FieldView? What's the ROI on that? So we went and asked our customers. So EMA went out and said, okay, tell us what changes were, what either time or money or effort that you found as a benefit after installing the application. So at a high level, we have three case studies that I just want to briefly mention. The first one, optimized capacity. This was a large insurance company that saved approximately $400 million because they were able to defer at first and then actually cancel a project of racks and circuit panel additions, which would have taken them about 6 months of time. And the reason they were able to get rid of that project is because of stranded data. Once they lit up FieldView, they were able to say, well, I've got a lot of power on this PDU that's not being utilized. I can redeploy that, repurpose it into other areas. So again, they were able to basically wipe out that project because they found power that they didn't realize or remember that they had before. So that was their savings. Secondly, simplifying IT operations. An international investment bank saved approximately 4,900 hours, which equated to almost $370,000 in facilities time, of operational time, trying to figure out where to deploy additional servers. The process was they had to go into, IT had to go to facilities and say, okay, where do you have power? Where can I put this server? And what the operations group on facilities said, well, you know what, if you have a 2U server or less, just go into FieldView, find out where the power is, and go ahead and put it in that rack. Use FieldView as your one-stop shop to figure out for 1U servers, 2U servers, where to put those servers, and you'll be fine. If you have anything over 2U, then yeah, come to us. But they were able to reduce that time frame from 14 days down to 2 hours. So again, they saved a bunch of money there on just process, if you will, of getting servers deployed, up and running, and making revenue for the company. third, reducing costs. This was an IT managed services provider. What they wanted to do was, it just goes back to that example I gave earlier, they wanted to reduce the power spend on cooling in their data center. They had the data center down really cool, and what they wanted to do was reduce that spend, so they deployed temperature sensors, wireless temperature sensors, and they systematically raised the temperature on their cracks and then raised the ambient room temperature up a degree at a time. And then they used FieldView to look at the temperature down at the rack level, in the actual rows, to see how the servers were responding, what type of air they were breathing in terms of temperature, and they were making sure that it still fell within ASHRAE standards, and they were able to save about $150,000 by systematically raising that temperature and reducing the spend, again, bringing the temperature up in the data center. So they were able to really get in there and save some money just by simply raising the temperature and feeling confident about the servers, living in that environment. And then finally, this is not necessarily a case study itself, but this goes back to that teaming concept that I mentioned earlier. This is something you can't really put a value on, because that teaming concept, that pairing that's going on in the background within FieldView, is making sure that my backups, my power redundancy is there, and it will warn if A and B get to a level where B can't handle A, we're going to give you that warning ahead of time. So this is, as that credit card company has with that commercial, it's priceless. Going out and looking at, because that's running in the background, you can't really put a value on it until after a fault occurs, and then it gets really expensive and it's a big value. So again, not necessarily a specific case study, but that's something that we think is a huge value within the application.
Well, thanks, Bob.
Sure.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We actually have some questions, and I'm urging everyone, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to submit them. We're going to get to the questions in just a second. We wanted to let you folks know that because we're very excited, obviously, about acquiring FieldView and the teams coming together, that we are actually offering special promotional pricing and future-proofing connectors, as well as providing seamless integration with Nlyte. So if you're interested in this special promotion, please contact your Nlyte representative, because this is going to go on for only a limited time only. So please contact your Nlyte rep if you're interested, or you'd actually like to see a demonstration of the product in action. So we have had quite a few questions from the audience. We also have Rob Neve, our CTO and co-founder here at Nlyte, has joined us. So we've got some questions coming in. I'm going to just turn to them. So first question we're going to take on is, so is FieldView going to replace the current Nlyte power chain module?
So no, it's going to extend. So if you look at inside Nlyte today, where we've got the power chain and we can build the relationships between infrastructure, the devices, the circuits, right down to the servers. And inside FieldView, you've got a very similar and very powerful capability to do that for real-time information. We will be taking both technologies and bringing them together into one. So you'll be able to see real-time what's going down on the chain within inside Nlyte. Much like where we were talking, or I think you were talking around alarms, much like where you'll start seeing alarms visualized within inside the Nlyte product, you'll start seeing the chain, the power chain, will move across into Nlyte as well. So it'll be one combined solution between the two products.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rob. Next question. I'm used to seeing a cabinet's total power consumption via the blue thermometer in the gauge for an Nlyte cabinet view. If fed in via an API, how does FieldView change this setup?
FieldView, you won't be talking through the API. FieldView will be connecting to the real-time device, say the power strip, bringing in the power information from that power strip and the outlets within that power strip, returning that information into the assets inside Nlyte. So this is all supported today. We bring across the information for the real-time power at the power strip and the outlets within the power strip from FieldView, pass that to the Nlyte related asset, which in turn feeds that blue bar within inside the cabinet planner. So you'll see the real-time usage going up and down inside Nlyte from FieldView's power readings. On top of that, with Nlyte alarming capabilities with FieldView, you'll be able to see if there's an incident, or if we lose power, or if you go above a certain threshold on that power strip, you'll be able to send a message and visualize that with inside the product, with inside Nlyte.
Okay, thanks, Rob. I don't know which of you two will answer this question, but the next one is, can you integrate power information into ServiceNow?
So I'll take that one.
Okay.
Well. So there's a number of different ways. So if you were taking the FieldView reads today, this could be, because we've got the APIs, so we did some fantastic APIs with FieldView, and this is what's enabling the connection to be so smooth. You can pass the information from FieldView that could be pushed into ServiceNow. Are we looking to potentially start an incident? Are we looking to update an incident? Because if that's the fault, that's exactly where we're thinking of taking this. And this is one of the major reasons why it really does extend our capabilities into IT. Because we have the minute resolution understanding of the infrastructure within FieldView, we can tie that minute resolution in through Nlyte, in through our connectors that exist today into change management systems, turn that into an incident management, and then start raising things and updating things in ServiceNow automatically.
Okay. So when I noticed, Rob, just sort of a question real quick, and maybe that's for Bob, one of the great qualities of FieldView is the ability to do what-if scenarios where you go in and say, what if we lose this particular part of the power chain? What is the impact? Could you take that information and pass it up as an issue into ServiceNow or BMC or something like that?
You are absolutely. That is one of the fantastic, again, another one of the fantastic things around this really, is because we have that minute resolution, we know exactly, with FieldView, you know exactly what's going on minute by minute within your environment. And in Nlyte, we know what those assets are and we know how they're connected. When we tie that to minute-by-minute readings, we're able to say, potentially, we have had an impact on this power that has affected these servers. These servers relate to these CIs that relate to this service within inside ITSM. Package all that together in a message, push it into incident straight away. At the same time as you're getting your people on the ground getting emails that things are bad, we're also pushing it all into IT and into incident. This is what bad means. Okay.
So another question, will the power chain build process change to a graphical build resembling a typical one-line versus the current logical relationships?
It will be a mix of both again, because the logical relationships will still be standing, so it's text related, so you'll still have the text related relationships with inside Nlyte, because you've got different areas or different users capturing that information. And not all users will understand the whole single line graphs. But the single line graphs that are inside Nlyte today will extend to enable you to start building those connections out.
Okay. Another question, will there be a specific Nlyte UI change as a result of the acquisition? It's kind of a big, juicy question.
It is a very juicy one. There will be a new module in the front of the Nlyte system. There'll be a new module called Nlyte Alarms, where you'll be able to go in and that will give you the view where you can configure all of your alarms, and we'll be pulling the pages from FieldView into Nlyte. They'll be branded, all look the same, feel the same. You'll go through, you'll do all your stuff inside there for setting up your measurement points and tying those measurement points to the assets inside Nlyte. The visualization of an alarm and a threshold will all be on the floor plan, on the asset, in the logical row view. All that will be supported, and the email notifications will go out as well. So there will be a blended growth, if you like, with inside the Nlyte, but there will be a whole brand new module.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sort of being given the running out of time sign across my neck. We have quite a few questions we didn't get to. I'm sorry we didn't get to them, but as I promised earlier at the beginning of the webinar, we will get back to every single question we receive. So again, thanks for everybody that submitted the questions. Those of you we didn't get to, sorry about that. We will come back around. Again, we're offering special promotional pricing and a whole promotional package with FieldView right now. So if you are interested and would like to see a demonstration and talk a little further, please contact your Nlyte sales representative. And that brings us to the end of our webinar. Again, thank you everybody for spending your time with us today. We look forward to seeing you on future webinars. Thanks and goodbye.